So, to summarize before we move on, and this is an interesting summary that you should memorize or write down, the stages of da'wah of the Prophet ﷺ, the stages of da'wah. The stages of da'wah are 5. The stages of da'wah are 5. And each of these stages is a legitimate stage for any Muslim community in the world depending on their circumstance. However we choose which stage to be. The first stage is the private da'wah. The private da'wah means you don't have to confront the public. Let the public status quo remain. You're too weak, or the political climate is too difficult. Private da'wah means you don't have to become a martyr. In our religion, it's a very pragmatic religion. It's a very realistic religion. You don't have to go kill yourself if you're not going to gain anything. If the community is going to kill you, persecute you, just be a Muslim in your private life. Private da'wah. The Prophet did it for 3 years. The second stage of da'wah, public da'wah with no military commandments. It's just preaching with the tongue. And this was the bulk of the Prophet's life, 10 or 11 years of Mecca. Preaching with the tongue and no military confrontation. And even if they kill you, you can't do anything back. Because now you're not capable of doing anything. You just have to bear in patience. And these are the commandments of patience in the Quran. The commandment of if they do something, turn away, leave the jahilin, don't engage with them. You just give your da'wah. And this was 10 years of da'wah. And of these 10, the last 6 or 7 were extremely difficult, to the extent of multiple assassination attempts, as we're going to talk about inshallah today and next few weeks inshallah ta'ala. The first 3-4 years were difficult, but then they became even more and more difficult, and this led to the immigration to Abyssinia, this led to Ta'if, this led to the year of sorrow, this led to the boycott. All of this inshallah we will discuss. Throughout all of these 10 years, no physical confrontation. Even if they kill one of yours, there's nothing you can do, you don't kill back one of theirs. And this is the peaceful da'wah through the tongue. That's the second stage. The third stage, da'wah with the tongue along with physical fighting to one group only, or to a particular group. And this happened for the first 6 years after the hijrah. That the Muslims fought only the Quraysh of Mecca. They did not fight any other tribe, because the other tribes had nothing to do with them. And so the Muslims had military battles only with the Quraysh, or if anybody allied with the Quraysh and attacked them, then of course the Muslims had to attack back. Right? So this is the third stage of da'wah. Open da'wah along with military confrontation to a specific enemy. The fourth stage of da'wah was open da'wah to all with izzah. Unlike when they were in Mecca, they couldn't do anything. But the fourth stage, you attack if only you need to, in defense. Whereas in the Meccan stage, you didn't even attack, because, meaning you didn't have any type of attack against them, retaliatory attack. If somebody kills one of yours, there's nothing you can do back, because you are persecuted. The fourth stage, you have political power, but you don't utilize it for military accomplishments, for military endeavors, unless you do so for defense. And this happened in the Medinan stage after the Treaty of Hudaybiyah until the conquest of Mecca. What was the Treaty of Hudaybiyah? Remember the condition. One of the conditions was no fighting. And the Prophet said, okay, no fighting. So there was no fighting, even though he had the power, and he had the army, and he had the resources. But the political climate dictated no fighting, and that was what was best. So they said, fine, no fighting. And we'll talk about that when we get there. That was one of the biggest victories of Islam, no fighting. And Allah revealed, "Inna fatahna laka fathan mubina." We've given you the biggest victory. And Umar didn't understand. We'll get to that later. He said, how is this a victory? We have lost. How is this a victory? And Allah told him, this is a victory. And they saw with their own eyes, and we're going to come to that later on. And the fifth and final stage was open da'wah along with physical confrontation to anybody who opposes Islam. And this was the stage that the Prophet ﷺ passed away upon. That he was sending out not only delegations but armies. He was sending Usama ibn Zayd, right, to the Romans. He was sending all these armies. And the Sahaba continued along the fifth stage. And that is why they conquered Persia. and they conquered most of the Roman Empire. They took over Damascus and Syria and Palestine and Egypt and North Africa. And the Umayyads continued this, and they conquered Uzbekistan and Tajikistan and Afghanistan, and they conquered what is now Pakistan and parts of India, and they went all the way to China. And then finally, in the mid stage of the Abbasids, they decided to go back to the fourth stage, and that is open da'wah to all and stop the fighting. Stop the fighting unless there's a need to. And for the bulk of the ummah, when we had a khilafah, we no longer have one. For the bulk of the ummah was upon basically the fourth stage, which is open da'wah to all, and we only fight if there's a need to. And this clearly shows that military conquest is not a part of Islam. It is a possible part that the ummah utilized when it wanted to and when it needed to. The main thing is to preach the message. And you utilize what is the best way possible. And historically speaking, our ummah has utilized all of these ways. And therefore, in our times, there's no question that militarily, this is not any time we can do anything, especially as minorities in many lands. This is the time we talk about public da'wah without any confrontation, where we preach our message, and those groups that are violent, those groups that are talking about these things, we say, no, this is not the way of our religion. Our Prophet ﷺ showed us the clear way, and his methodology is the best methodology, and his seerah is the best seerah. So these are the 5 stages of da'wah that the Prophet ﷺ underwent, and every community throughout the world, its leaders, its ulama can see which of these 5 is best for that community. Which of these 5 is the best for that community, and each of these is a legitimate means of our Prophet ﷺ.